The cargo ship Star Runner docked at Nexus Station with a soft thud. Captain Ji-won checked his equipment one last time before leaving his ship. The station looked old and dirty from the outside. Rust covered most of the metal walls and strange smells filled the air. "Are you sure about this place?" asked Minho, his engineer. The young man frowned as he looked at the scanner readings. "The energy signatures here are all wrong. This place gives me bad feelings." Haeun, their medic, packed her medical kit carefully. "The reports say this station has rare minerals we need for Earth's colonies. But they also say to be very careful here." Ji-won nodded. "I know it's dangerous, but Earth needs those minerals badly. Our new colonies can't survive without them. We'll be quick and stay out of trouble." The three humans walked through the station's main corridor. Strange aliens moved around them, speaking in languages they didn't understand. Some aliens looked like giant insects. Others had multiple arms and eyes. A few looked almost human, but with blue or green skin. The main trading area buzzed with activity. Merchants sold weapons, rare metals, and exotic foods. Ji-won found a few dealers who had the minerals he needed, but their prices were too high. One alien trader with purple scales suggested he try the lower levels. "Better deals down there," the trader said with a voice like breaking glass. "But be careful, human. Some trades are not for soft hearts." Ji-won felt confused by the warning, but he needed those minerals. He told Minho and Haeun to wait at the ship while he explored alone. The elevator to the lower levels made strange noises as it dropped down. The lower level felt different. The lights were dimmer and fewer people walked around. The air smelled worse here, like fear and sadness mixed together. Ji-won followed signs pointing to special trades and rare goods. He turned a corner and stopped. His blood turned cold. Cages lined the walls. Inside the cages were living beings. Aliens of many different types. Some looked like humans but with different colored skin. Others had fur or scales. All of them looked scared and hurt. "Welcome to the meat market," called out a large alien with red skin and sharp teeth. "Looking for a servant, a worker? We have the best quality slaves in this sector." Ji-won's mouth fell open. Slavery had been illegal on Earth for hundreds of years. He thought the whole galaxy had moved past such horrible things. But here it was, happening right in front of him. I was looking for minerals," Ji-won said, trying to keep his voice steady. The red alien laughed. "Minerals are boring. Look at these beautiful creatures. This one here." He pointed to a cage holding a blue-skinned girl. "She can work for 20 hours without rest. Very obedient." Ji-won felt sick to his stomach. He started to turn away when he heard a small voice. "Please, help." The voice came from a cage in the corner. Inside sat a young female alien who looked almost human. Her skin was pale white with silver markings on her arms and face. Her hair was long and silver white, but what caught Ji-won's attention were her eyes. They were large and blue, filled with intelligence and desperate hope. Heavy chains held her hands and feet. The chains connected to a collar around her neck. She looked thin and weak, as if she hadn't eaten in days. "Ah, you like the Etherian," the red alien said, walking over. "Very rare species. They were just conquered by the Vorthak Empire. This one is young and smart. She can read, write, and speak many languages." The girl looked directly at Ji-won. Something in his human face seemed to give her courage. She lifted her head higher and spoke in broken galactic standard. You are human, yes? I have heard stories. Your people, they are different. They are kind." Her voice was soft but desperate. "Please, sir, can you purchase me and take me as your servant? I will work hard. I will cause no trouble, please. Do not leave me here." Ji-won's heart broke hearing those words. No living being should have to beg to be bought like an object. He looked around at all the other cages. Dozens of intelligent beings were trapped here, being sold like tools. "What happened to her people?" Ji-won asked the dealer. "The Vorthaks invaded their planet 3 months ago. Etherians make perfect slaves. They're smart but not fighters. Plus, they feel emotions very strongly, so they break easily when you hurt them." The red alien grinned, showing his sharp teeth. Ji-won felt anger building inside him. "How much?" "For the Etherian?" "She's expensive because she's young and undamaged. 5,000 credits, that was all the money Ji-won had brought for buying minerals. If he spent it here, his mission would fail. The Earth colonies would not get the materials they needed, but as he looked at the girl's hopeful eyes, he knew he couldn't walk away. "I'll take her," Ji-won said. The dealer's eyes lit up with greed. "Excellent choice. She comes with chains and a control collar. The collar will shock her if she tries to run away or disobey orders." "I don't want the collar." "But sir, how will you control her without it?" I'll manage, Jiwon said firmly. After paying the money and completing the paperwork, Jiwon walked over to the girl's cage. The dealer opened it and pushed her out. She stumbled and fell to her knees, weak from hunger and fear. What's your name? Jiwon asked gently. Lyra, she whispered. Thank you, master. I will serve you well. The word master made Jiwon feel sick, but he knew this wasn't the place to explain. He helped her stand up and noticed how light she was. Can you walk? Yes, master. I am strong enough. As they left the slave market, Jiwon saw the red alien watching them with interest. He also noticed several other dangerous-looking aliens taking note of his purchase. Buying the girl might have painted a target on his back. But as they walked toward the elevator, Lyra stayed close to his side. For the first time in months, hope flickered in her blue eyes. Jiwon had no idea how much trouble this decision would bring him. He only knew that he couldn't leave her in that horrible place. The elevator doors closed, carrying them both toward an uncertain future. Back on the Star Runner, Minho and Hyeon stared in shock as Jiwon brought Lyra aboard. The alien girl kept her head down and stayed very close to Jiwon's side. Her chains rattled with every step. Captain, what have you done? Minho asked, looking worried. We came here for minerals, not to buy slaves. She's not a slave, Jiwon said firmly. Not anymore. Hyeon moved closer to examine Lyra. The medic's trained eyes noticed the girl's thin frame and the marks on her wrists from the chains. She needs medical attention and food. Lots of food. Lyra looked up nervously when Hyeon approached. Please, master, she said to Jiwon. I did not give you permission to touch me. Do not punish me for this woman's actions. Nobody is going to punish you, Jiwon said gently, and you don't need to call me master. My name is Jiwon. Lyra looked confused. But you own me now. You paid money for me. I must call you master. Jiwon knelt down so he could look into her eyes. Listen to me carefully, Lyra. I bought you to set you free. You are not my slave. You are not anyone's slave. You are free. The words seemed to confuse Lyra even more. She shook her head quickly. No, that cannot be right. Free means thrown away, useless. If I am not serving someone, then I have no purpose. Please, I will work very hard for you. Minho pulled Jiwon aside. Captain, this is a bad idea. We don't know anything about her species. What if she's dangerous? What if there are laws against freeing slaves? We could get in serious trouble. Look at her, Minho. Does she look dangerous to you? They both turned to watch Lyra. She stood perfectly still where Jiwon had left her, afraid to move without permission. Her whole body shook slightly from fear or cold. She looks terrified, Hyeon said softly. The poor thing has been through something terrible. Jiwon made a decision. Hyeon, please take care of her injuries. Minho, we need to learn everything we can about her species and what happened to them. While Hyeon led Lyra to the medical bay, Minho accessed the ship's computer. What he found made him feel sick. Captain, you need to see this, Minho called out. The Etherian homeworld was attacked 3 months ago by something called the Vorthak Empire. The Vorthaks are a military species that conquers other planets to take slaves. The screen showed pictures of the attack. Vorthak ships had bombed Etherian cities from space. The peaceful aliens had no weapons to fight back. In just one day, their entire civilization was destroyed. It says here that Etherians are empathic. Minho continued reading. They can feel other people's emotions. That's why they make good slaves. They're too sensitive to handle cruelty for very long. Jiwon felt his anger growing. How many were taken? The report estimates over 2 million Etherians were captured and sold across the galaxy. The Vorthaks are still hunting down the ones who escaped. In the medical bay, Hyeon was trying to help Lyra eat some soup, but the girl's hands shook too much to hold the spoon properly. Here, let me help, Hyeon offered. No. Lyra pulled back quickly. Slaves must feed themselves. I am not worthy of being fed by another person. Hyeon's heart broke. Lyra, you're not a slave anymore. It's okay to accept help when you need it. I do not understand, Lyra said, tears forming in her blue eyes. Your captain spent money on me. That means I belong to him. If I do not serve him well, he will sell me to someone worse. That is how it works. Not for humans, Hyeon explained patiently. Humans believe that all thinking beings should be free. Nobody should own another person. Lyra stared at her. But that is impossible. How do societies work if there are no servants? Who does the hard jobs? People choose their jobs and get paid for their work. Everyone has the right to make their own decisions about their life. This concept seemed completely foreign to Lyra. On her homeworld, Etherians had lived in peace, but they'd always had social ranks. When the Vorthax came, her people didn't understand that they could fight back. My people, we felt the soldiers' anger and hatred when they attacked us. It was so strong, so painful. Most of us couldn't think clearly. We just wanted the horrible feelings to stop. Hyan nodded with understanding. Being empathic must have made the attack even more traumatic for you. The Vorthax learned quickly how to control us. They would hurt one of us while making the others watch. We could feel that person's pain as if it were our own. After a while, we would do anything to make it stop. Jiwan entered the medical bay just in time to hear this. His face grew dark with anger. That's psychological torture. Lyra looked at him with surprise. You are angry about what happened to my people? Of course I am. What they did was evil. But we are not your species. We are not your family. Why would you care? Jiwan sat down across from her. Because you're a thinking, feeling person. That's enough. Lyra studied his face carefully. Her empathic abilities let her sense that he was telling the truth. She had never felt this kind of compassion from someone who wasn't Etherian. There are others, she said quietly. Many others still trapped. The Vorthax have slave markets on dozens of worlds. My sister, my friends, they are somewhere out there suffering. Tell me about these markets, Jiwan said. For the next hour, Lyra shared everything she knew. The Vorthax had a huge network of slave traders. They supplied workers to many different alien species across the galaxy. Most buyers didn't ask questions about where the slaves came from. The worst part, Lyra said, is that many species think this is normal. They believe some beings are naturally meant to serve others. Minho had been listening from the doorway. Captain, if we start rescuing slaves, we'll make enemies of the entire Vorthak Empire. They have hundreds of warships. Then we'll have to be smart about it, Jiwan replied. You would really risk your lives to help people you have never met? Lyra asked, amazed. That's what humans do, Jiwan said simply. Lyra felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Not just for herself, but for all her people still trapped in slavery. But she also felt Jiwan's determination through her empathic senses. He wasn't just making empty promises. This human really meant to fight an entire empire to free slaves. The idea both thrilled and terrified her. 3 weeks had passed since leaving Nexus Station. Lyra still slept on the floor beside Jiwan's bed, refusing to use the spare room they had prepared for her. Every morning, she woke up before everyone else to clean the ship and prepare meals. Even though no one had asked her to do these things, Lyra, you don't have to do this, Jiwan said for the 10th time as she scrubbed the floor on her hands and knees. Please, Master Jiwan, let me work. If I'm not useful, you will throw me away. Jiwan sighed. Hyan had removed Lyra's physical chains on the first day, but the mental chains were much harder to break. In the medical bay, Hyan finished checking Lyra's healing wounds. The physical injuries were getting better, but the psychological damage would take much longer to heal. She has nightmares every night, Hyan told Jiwan privately. She wakes up screaming, thinking she's back in the slave market, and she still flinches every time one of us moves too quickly. Minho had stopped complaining about their passenger, but he still watched her carefully. At least she's sharing information about Vorthak operations. Look at this map she drew. The map showed the locations of 12 different slave markets in nearby systems. Lyra had been moved between several of them before ending up at Nexus Station. She says the largest market is on a planet called Corvin Prime. Minho continued. Thousands of slaves are sold there every month. Jiwan studied the map. We need to contact other human traders. If we're going to help these people, we can't do it alone. That evening, Jiwan sat with Lyra in the ship's small lounge area. She always sat on the floor saying that furniture was for masters, not slaves. Tell me about your homeworld, Jiwan said gently. Lyra's eyes grew sad. Ethros was beautiful. We had crystal cities that caught the light from our 3 suns. Everyone lived in harmony because we could feel each other's emotions. Fighting was almost impossible because we would feel our opponent's pain. It sounds peaceful. Too peaceful, Lyra said bitterly. When the Vorthax attacked, we had no weapons, no soldiers, no defenses. We didn't even understand what war was. That's not a weakness, Lyra. That's something beautiful about your people. She looked at him with confusion. How can you say that? Our peaceful nature made us easy victims. Ji-won thought carefully about his words. On Earth, humans used to fight each other all the time. We had wars that killed millions of people. We enslaved each other based on skin color or where we were born. It took us thousands of years to learn that peace was better than war. But you learned to fight when you needed to. Yes, but we also learned something more important. We learned that every person has value, no matter what they look like or where they come from. We learned that freedom is a right, not a privilege. Lyra listened carefully. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel that Ji-won truly believed these things. On my world, we had leaders and followers, but everyone was cared for, she said. Here in space, I have seen species that throw away their weak members. I have seen races that kill others for fun. How did humans become so different? Ji-won pulled up some files on his tablet. Here, let me show you something. He showed her pictures from Earth's history. Images of slavery, of wars, of terrible things humans had done to each other. But he also showed her pictures of people fighting for freedom, of laws being changed, of societies growing better over time. This man was named Somin. He fought to end slavery on Earth over 400 years ago. Many people hated him for it, but he never gave up. Lyra studied the picture. He looks determined. He was. And this woman, Unji, led a movement to give equal rights to all humans, regardless of their gender. She was arrested many times, but she kept fighting. As Ji-won shared more stories, Lyra began to understand something important. Humans weren't naturally good. They had chosen to become better. Change is possible, she whispered. Yes, but it takes courage, and it takes people who are willing to stand up for what's right, even when it's dangerous. Over the following days, Lyra began to change in small ways. She started asking questions instead of just following orders. When Haeon offered to teach her about human medicine, Lyra accepted eagerly. Learning is good, Lyra said as she studied anatomy charts. Slaves are not supposed to learn, but I am not a slave anymore. Minho noticed her intelligence as she helped him repair some ship systems. She learns incredibly fast, he told Ji-won. Her people must have very advanced minds. Which makes what happened to them even more tragic, Ji-won replied. One day, while reviewing star charts, Lyra suddenly pointed to a system near Vorthak space. Their Dalvin station. The Vorthaks have a processing center there. New slaves are brought there first before being sent to different markets. How do you know this? I was held there for 2 weeks. I saw transport ships arriving every day with new prisoners. There must be hundreds of my people there right now. Ji-won felt his determination growing stronger. Then that's where we need to go. It is too dangerous, Lyra said quickly. The station is heavily guarded. You would be killed and I would be captured again. Not if we're smart about it. That night, Ji-won sent encrypted messages to other human traders, using codes that Minho had helped him develop. He explained what they had discovered about the slave trade and asked for help. The responses came back quickly. Other humans had also encountered slavery in their travels, and many were horrified by what they had seen. A trader named Taehyung suggested they meet at a neutral station to plan their next moves. Lyra watched these preparations with growing amazement. You are really going to fight the Vorthak Empire. We're going to save as many people as we can, Ji-won corrected. But why? Your own species is safe on Earth. You could ignore this problem and live comfortable lives. Ji-won looked at her seriously. Because once you know that innocent people are suffering, you can't just pretend it's not happening. That's what makes us human. For the first time since her rescue, Lyra smiled. It was a small smile, but it was genuine. I want to help, she said. I want to save my people too. It will be dangerous, I know. But you have taught me something important. Freedom is worth fighting for. As their ship changed course toward the meeting point with other human traders, Lyra felt something growing inside her that she had thought was lost forever. Hope for the future. The meeting point was a small space station called Haven Port, hidden in an asteroid field far from major trade routes. When Ji-won's ship arrived, he found 5 other human vessels already waiting. Welcome to the Resistance, said Captain Taehyung as they met in Haven Port's conference room. He was an older man with gray hair and serious eyes. We've been waiting for someone like you. Around the table sat 6 human captains and their crews. Ji-won was surprised to learn that they had all discovered the slave trade independently and had been working in secret to help where they could. We call ourselves the Underground Railroad, explained Captain Isul, a woman about Ji-won's age. We took the name from an old Earth organization that helped free slaves centuries ago. Lyra stayed close to Jiwon during the meeting. The other humans looked at her with curiosity and sympathy, but she still felt nervous around strangers. "How many people have you rescued so far?" Jiwon asked. 43 individuals from 12 different species, Taehyung replied. "But it's dangerous work. The Vorthax are starting to notice that their slaves keep disappearing." Captain Kangmin, the youngest of the group, leaned forward. "We need better intelligence about Vorthak operations. Most of our rescues have been lucky accidents." "That's where Lyra can help us," Jiwon said. "She knows the locations of several slave processing centers." All eyes turned to Lyra. She felt overwhelmed by the attention but forced herself to speak. "The Vorthax move prisoners between facilities to prevent rescue attempts," she said quietly. "But there are patterns. New captures always go to processing centers first. From there, they are sent to markets based on their skills and species." She drew a map showing the flow of slaves through the Vorthak network. The humans studied it carefully. "This is incredibly valuable information," Isul said. "With this, we could intercept transport ships before they reach the markets." "It's still dangerous," Minho pointed out. "Transport ships have military escorts." Taehyung nodded. "We've learned to be very careful. We use fake distress signals to separate escort ships from their targets. We also have contacts on several neutral worlds who help us hide the people we rescue." Over the next few hours, they planned their first major rescue operation. Intelligence suggested that a transport ship carrying over 100 slaves would pass through the Kepler system in 3 days. "The escort will be light because they think the route is safe," Kangmin explained. "2 of our ships can create a distraction while the others board the transport." Lyra listened to the planning with growing excitement and fear. "What happens to the people after you rescue them?" "We have safe houses on neutral worlds," Isul explained. "Some of the rescued people choose to stay there and build new lives. Others want to go home if their homeworlds still exist. And some want to join us," added Taehyung. "We have several former slaves working as crew members now. Their knowledge of Vorthak operations is invaluable." The mission in the Kepler system went exactly as planned. The human ships used coordinated attacks to disable the escorts, then boarded the transport ship. They found 127 slaves from 8 different species crammed into cargo holds. Lyra was part of the boarding team. When she saw the conditions the prisoners were kept in, she felt sick. The cargo holds were dark, dirty, and overcrowded. Many of the prisoners were injured or sick. "It's okay," she told a group of terrified Etherians in their own language. "These humans are here to help you." The rescued Etherians couldn't believe what they were hearing. They had been captured so recently that they still remembered stories about the peaceful humans of Earth. "You came back for us," one young Etherian male whispered to Lyra. "We thought everyone who escaped had forgotten about us." "No one is forgotten," Lyra replied, surprising herself with how confident she sounded. The rescue operation was a complete success. All 127 prisoners were freed and no humans were seriously injured. But their success came with a price. 3 weeks later, Jiwon received an urgent message from Taehyung. "Emergency meeting at Haven Port. We've been discovered." When the human captains gathered again, their mood was much more serious. Taehyung showed them intercepted Vorthak communications. "They know about our operations. Admiral Kors, one of their top military commanders, has been assigned to hunt us down. He's calling us human pirates and has placed bounties on our heads." The communications included detailed descriptions of all their ships and crew members. Someone had been watching them carefully. "How did they get this information?" Isul asked. "They have spies everywhere," Lyra said grimly. "The Vorthaks are very good at gathering intelligence. They probably have informants at several stations where we've operated." Kangmin looked worried. "Maybe we should lay low for a while. Let things cool down. We can't stop now," Jiwon said firmly. "Every day we wait, more people are enslaved." "Jiwon's right," Taehyung agreed. "But we need to change our methods. No more large operations. We go back to small rescues and stay mobile." Over the following months, the Underground Railroad adapted to the increased Vorthak attention. They used smaller teams, changed their ship identifications frequently, and developed new codes for communication. Lyra became their most valuable asset. Her empathic abilities allowed her to sense when someone was lying or hiding information. She could also communicate with many slave species in their own languages. "You've changed so much," Heian observed one day as she watched Lyra coordinate with other rescued aliens. "I learned from watching humans," Lyra replied. "You showed me that even one person can make a difference if they refuse to give up." But their success was drawing more dangerous attention. Admiral Kors was not content to simply hunt them. He was setting a trap. During a routine rescue mission at a small outpost, Jiwan's team received what appeared to be a standard distress call. A group of Etherian prisoners had escaped from a Vorthak facility and were hiding on a nearby moon. "It feels wrong," Lyra said as they approached the moon. "I can sense fear, but also something else, anticipation. Should we abort?" Minho asked. Jiwan studied the scanner readings. Everything looked normal, but he had learned to trust Lyra's empathic senses. "No, but we go in carefully. Lyra, can you tell how many people are down there?" She concentrated, extending her empathic range as far as possible. "I sense about 20 Etherians. They are definitely afraid, but there are others, non-empathic minds that feel excited about something." "Vorthax," Minho realized. "It's a trap." They were about to turn around when they received another message. This time it was a video transmission showing the captured Etherians. Among them, Lyra recognized someone she thought she would never see again. "Nara," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "That's my sister." On the screen, a Vorthak officer held a weapon to Nara's head. "Come and get them, human pirates. But come quickly or they all die." Jiwan looked at Lyra's desperate face and made his decision. "We're going in." "Captain, it's obviously a trap," Minho protested. "I know. But we can't abandon them." As their ship descended toward the moon's surface, none of them knew that Admiral Kors himself was waiting for them with a full battle fleet hidden behind the moon's larger neighbor. The Underground Railroad's biggest test was about to begin. The trap closed the moment Jiwan's ship landed on the moon's surface. Vorthak warships emerged from behind the neighboring planet, surrounding them completely. Admiral Kors had planned this perfectly. "Human vessel, you are surrounded," came the cold voice over the radio. "Surrender now and we might let your crew live." Jiwan looked at his team. Minho was already working frantically at the navigation controls, trying to find an escape route. Hyon was preparing emergency medical supplies. Lyra stood frozen, staring at the screen showing her sister and the other prisoners. "We can't fight a whole fleet," Minho said. "Our weapons are no match for theirs." "Then we run," Jiwan decided. "Minho, get us out of here." "What about the prisoners?" Lyra asked desperately. "We'll come back for them, but not if we're dead." The Star Runner lifted off just as Vorthak fighters began their attack. Minho pushed the engines to their limits, weaving between energy blasts and missile strikes. But there were too many enemy ships. "Hull breach in Section 4. Hyon called out as the ship shook from another hit. A Vorthak missile struck their port engine, sending them spinning out of control. Minho fought to stabilize the ship, but they were losing power fast. "Emergency landing," Jiwan ordered. "Everyone hold on." They crashed into the moon's rocky surface with a grinding impact that threw everyone against the walls. When the shaking stopped, emergency lights bathed everything in red. Minho groaned, holding his head where it had struck a console. Blood ran down his face from a deep cut. "Engines are gone." "We're not going anywhere." Vorthak troops were already surrounding the crash site. Through the viewports, they could see dozens of armed soldiers moving into position. "Attention humans." Admiral Kors's voice came over their speakers. "Exit your vessel with your hands visible. Resistance will result in immediate execution." Jiwan looked at his injured friend and his scared crew. They had no choice. "I'm sorry," he said to Lyra. "I'm sorry I couldn't save your sister." "You tried," Lyra replied, though tears ran down her face. "That's more than anyone else did." They walked out of their damaged ship with hands raised. Admiral Kors was waiting for them. A tall Vorthak with dark red scales and cold yellow eyes. His uniform showed many military decorations. "So these are the famous human pirates," he said, studying them like insects. "You have caused considerable trouble for our operations." "We freed innocent people," Jiwan replied. "That's not piracy." Admiral Kors laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Innocent? They are property, purchased legally under galactic law. You are thieves." Two soldiers grabbed Lyra and dragged her away from the others. She struggled, but the soldiers were much stronger. "Ah yes, the escaped Etherian," Kors said, walking over to her. "You will be very useful. Your empathic abilities will help us locate the rest of your human friends." "I'll never help you," Lyra said. "We shall see." Jiwan, Minho, and Hyon were forced into prisoner transport pods. Through the small windows, Jiwan watched as they took Lyra to a different ship. He felt helpless and angry. The Vorthak fleet took them to a massive prison station orbiting a dead planet. The station was built like a fortress with heavy armor and defensive weapons. Thousands of prisoners were held here, waiting to be sold. They separated the three humans, putting each in a different cell block. Ji-won found himself in a crowded prison section with aliens from dozens of different species. Most looked defeated and hopeless. His cellmate was an old alien with blue skin and wise eyes. "I am Vedek," the alien said. "I have been here for 2 years. What happened to you?" "My people refused to pay tribute to the Vorthak Empire. They destroyed our cities and took the survivors as slaves." Vedek studied Ji-won carefully. "You are human. I have heard whispers about your people, that you help others escape." Word of the human rescue operations had spread throughout the prison. Many aliens looked at Ji-won with hope, while others thought the stories were just fantasies. Meanwhile, in the interrogation section, Lyra faced Admiral Kors in a small, cold room. The Admiral had brought another prisoner with him, Nara, Lyra's sister. "Tell me about the Human Rescue Network," Kors demanded. "How many ships do they have? Where are their bases?" "I don't know," Lyra lied. Kors nodded to a guard who struck Nara with an electric weapon. The young Etherian screamed, and Lyra felt her sister's pain through their empathic connection. "Stop," Lyra cried. "Please don't hurt her. Then answer my questions." But Lyra had learned something from the humans. Sometimes you have to endure pain to protect others. "I told you I don't know." The torture continued for hours. Through her empathic abilities, Lyra felt every shock, every blow that they inflicted on other prisoners. But she also felt something else, the growing anger of the alien prisoners. News of her defiance spread through the prison. Here was an Etherian, a species known for being gentle and obedient, refusing to break under torture. Her courage inspired others. In the general population, Ji-won was planning something desperate. "We need to create a distraction," he told Vedek and the other prisoners. "Something big enough to cover a rescue attempt." "Impossible," said another alien. "The guards have energy weapons. We have nothing." "We have numbers," Ji-won pointed out. "And we have something they don't expect, the willingness to fight back." Vedek smiled. "You really are like the stories say. Very well, human. Tell us your plan." Working in secret, they began to organize the prisoners. It was dangerous. Anyone caught planning resistance would be executed. But word spread from cell to cell, species to species. On the third day, Lyra's interrogation took a different turn. Admiral Kors brought in a communication device. "Your human friends are planning something foolish," he said. "One of our spy ships detected multiple human vessels approaching this system. Call them off or everyone dies." Lyra felt a surge of hope. Ji-won's people hadn't abandoned them. But she also felt terror. If the humans attacked this fortress, they would all be killed. "I won't help you destroy them," she said. "Then you will watch them die." Unknown to Kors, his torture sessions had created something unexpected. The alien prisoners had formed an underground communication network. Guards and slave overseers who showed any kindness were secretly approached. Some aliens had special abilities that they had kept hidden. An insect-like alien named Zix could produce pheromones that made other species feel calm and cooperative. A rock creature called Boulder could break through metal walls with his bare hands. Others had night vision, telepathic abilities, or knowledge of station systems. "The humans taught us something important," Vedek said during a secret meeting. "Freedom is not given. It must be taken." As the Vorthak fleet prepared to face the approaching human ships, they didn't notice the subtle changes happening throughout their prison station. Guard shifts were being watched. Weapon storage areas were being mapped. Plans were being made. Lyra sat in her cell, battered but unbroken. Through her empathic abilities, she could sense the determination growing throughout the station. For the first time in Vorthak history, their slaves were planning to fight back. And somewhere in space, human ships were coming to help. The battle for the prison station was about to begin, and it would change everything.